Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. I'm your host, Ambreen Nadeem, and today we're going to talk about how you can maintain a positive, a very healthy mindset during a job search. Because job search is not an easy task. It's a tedious process. It drains mental and physical energies, and if you don't implement right strategies, it's going to have a really bad impact on your mental health, and it takes a toll on you. So today we're going to talk about that how you can stay positive, how you can keep going even when you get rejections, or even how you can actually craft a resume or implement right strategies to get the results faster. So that's why I have invited our guest who is an expert on this, and he is a business development manager. He's an author who's written a book about how you can craft your resumes in a better way. He's a keynote speaker and cultural architect and a strategic encourager. So let's welcome Gregory. Uh, Hello, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Ambreen. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor for me to have you on the show because I've been following your content and it's always so insightful, and especially the shout out you give. It's amazing. I get to know a lot of very good and inspiring people. So thanks a lot
Yeah,
for doing the work that you are doing on LinkedIn and in your personal life.
sure.
So before I actually go into uh, the proper discussion, I gave a little bit of introduction about you, but tell our audience about yourself, that how you get into the field and any struggles that you faced. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. And I'll be happy to. I'm gonna start with what I'm doing now. I'm gonna back up a
Yeah.
little bit and just kind of cover it
Okay.
real briefly. So currently, I'm a business development manager for Pro Pharma Group, and what we do is help pharmaceutical, biotech, and med device companies get their therapies to the market faster and safer through global life science consulting, which includes things like QA compliance, regulatory science, clinical research services, R&D, IT, medical information, and pharmacovigilance. But before that, I recruited an agency and at the corporate level for 11 years. And I started out actually in the pharmaceutical sector hiring scientists. And so I would basically get a contract with the company. They would say, "Hey, we need these scientists." I would place those people, and I would get to know obviously the candidates and coach them through the process. And after 11 years of doing this from the agency side and for corporate situations, I've read probably over 10,000 resumes, conducted probably hundreds of interviews. I also wrote a book based on that to help job seekers. It's called Stellar Resume Writing: Secrets from a Corporate Recruiter to Help Job Seekers. That's out on Amazon, and I still to this day enjoy helping job seekers as I can, but also love what I'm doing now, which is the challenge of helping people overcome health issues through the consulting in my company, Profarma Group.
Wow, you have a diverse experience, and especially from recruitment and especially the helping people in the health industry, and especially I think people are suffering from lots of health
Mm,
issues these days. So
mm.
tell us a little bit about this also, because I think that overall, in general, the health status of the people have gone really, really bad. So, what's your opinion about that?
Well, I think it's a confluence of disease getting worse, and maybe it's partly the fact that COVID, we are inside so much. We're vaccinated against COVID, but now our immune systems are weaker. And I've actually seen locally one of our schools shut down for 3 days because they had a GI virus that just kind of ran rampant, and they had to get it under control. But I also think it's an interaction between our mental health. Everything's connected, from your brain
Yeah.
to your emotions to your body, and the way you feel and the things that you say to yourself and the stress that you carry. Stress is very damaging to the body. So those things work together and make it more open for disease to take place.
Yeah, I think you defined it so aptly that it's actually linked. overall together, as you said, mental and
Mm,
physical both, there is of course our immune system has gone weaker, but there is still a lot of tension, a lot of stress going on. A lot of
mm,
people have, especially during the COVID time, a lot of people lost their loved one, they lost their jobs,
mm.
and
Yeah,
this adds up to their stress level, and that actually put them in the negative state of mind. And
sure.
that is exactly what we're going to discuss today. So what do you think that how to deal with that mental stress when people, especially like a lot of people have lost job during the COVID time
Yeah,
and they have not got it yet. So how to stay positive? What strategies should they actually implement to get the result
sure.
faster?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So basically, it's very difficult, and the challenge is keeping yourself mentally and emotionally steady and somewhat stoic through the process because and that's the reason that's hard to do is because just of our DNA. We're unfortunately the way our brains are made, fortunately and unfortunately, if it were just made for joy, then we would all forget about taking care of ourselves and not be afraid of things. But it's really designed for survival. And we're not out in the wild where large animals are going to hunt us down and kill us, but we still have those um, sympathetic, parasympathetic reactions to the world. And losing a job is a huge one because that does affect your survivability. It affects your income and your ability to put food on the table and put a roof over your head. So that can be a very scary and stressful time. But if you take that fear into your job search, your chances of success are dramatically reduced. So, what to do? Um, it all starts with your mindset. Mindset is everything. And it's not just for your job search, but in every part of your life. And if you have a poor mindset, it doesn't matter what I or anyone teaches you about
Yeah.
your job search practices, we're set up to fail from the inside out. And so, before we get into any strategies, I want to talk about that mindset first.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
what you Yeah, sure. Great. Thanks. What you think about, what you speak about comes about. So if you're saying things to yourself like, oh, there's no good jobs out there, there's no good jobs out there, there's no good jobs out there, nobody wants to hire me, nobody wants to hire me. And these are the things you're repeating to yourself throughout the day. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing good. And it's not just positive thinking fluff that, oh, I'm good and this is great. There's actually a science behind this. So we all have in our brains a reticular activating system, or RAS for short. And the only job of the RAS is to filter out what's important. So if you think about it,
Yeah.
we're bombarded with trillions of bits of sensory information every day. And through all of our senses, our sight, hearing, touch, temperature, all these things are hitting us. And similar to a computer, if you took all that information and hit your processor with it, your computer's going to crash. And so that's what
Yes.
our right. So that's what our RAS is designed to do, to help you focus on what's important. So what's important? Whatever you tell it is what's important. So the RAS is just a simple input output machine. It doesn't care what the input is, doesn't care if it's good or bad for you, doesn't care if it's right or wrong. It just takes commands and goes for it. So if you say, nobody wants to hire me, nobody wants to hire me, your RAS is going to take that as a command and it's going to start looking for evidence to prove that is true. And say, okay, he says nobody wants to hire him. We got to find evidence for it. And it's going to search throughout. And oh, got a rejection here. Oh, this company ghosted me over there. And it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to illustrate for our listeners, I want everyone to stop what they're doing, take a look around the room, and look for everything red. Look for anything that's red. Anything red, 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 red. Look for anything red.
Yeah.
Okay, now close your eyes and tell me everything brown that you saw. All right. And that's
Yeah.
how your RAS works, right? So it's like, oh, I gave it a command. I looked for red. I saw 5 red things, but brown, I wasn't even paying attention to that. So that's just an illustration of kind of what's going on in your brain. So
Yeah.
what do? We change the words you think and you say out loud, because words have the power of life over death. And if you say things to yourself like, I'm valuable, the right career is out there for me, I just need to keep at it. And have that in front of you, post it on your mirror, post it as a post-it note on your computer to remind yourself that no matter what input you're getting, you're valuable, that job's out there, and expect good things over time will happen. May not be your timing, may not be the job you thought it was, but it will. And also expect that being ghosted by companies at
Yeah.
times, or not getting the interview for the job or getting the job offer, it's part of the process. And you have to really work hard to keep yourself from taking it personally. And I know it's a challenge, but you have to be very disciplined about that. I mean, how many times or how many of you out there have gone into an interview, come out, absolutely nailed it, and you're like, I'm getting that offer. I nailed that. And then you didn't get it. It's
Yeah.
happened to me. And
Yeah.
so,
A lot of time to me. Yeah. Yeah.
right, you have to
Yeah.
brush that off. And there's a lot of reasons that people, and I've been on the background of uh, you know on the corporate side to see what happens and why they're not choosing people. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the person. I mean, I had one job that was filled because a cousin came to town, knew the CEO, that person got it. Or sometimes like the job just ran out of funding and the company doesn't
Yeah.
want to advertise, well, we don't have funding for this job anymore, so it just kind of quietly goes away. We had an offer out for an engineer one time, and the hiring manager quit. And I went to his boss. I said, what do we do? He says, I don't know. We don't have anybody to train this person. So, all these things, and it had nothing to do with the person. It's just these circumstantial things that you don't get to know about. And
Yeah.
before we go on to some tactical things, I'll leave you with one thing. So, uh, do you happen to know, Ambreen, what animal has a memory of 10 seconds?
Uh, of what? Sorry?
Do you know what animal has a
Animal.
memory
Of
of
10
10
seconds?
seconds? 10-second memory.
No.
Goldfish.
Oh, that's and
So,
that it she forgets everything, whatever happened before 10 seconds.
so that's it. 10 seconds,
That's
it's over.
amazing.
And that's
Wow.
kind of a metaphor of how we should handle, disappointments and rejection.
Yeah.
Be a goldfish.
Yeah, I actually absolutely love it. The way you actually explained it, especially when we are looking for the red things and then we ask ourselves that what was the brown thing. And that's exactly what happens that when we are looking for something or we are constantly telling our mind that, we are not going to get it, we are bad, we are not good enough. That's what exactly becomes start manifesting in our life. Whatever we say
Yep.
to ourselves we become.
Mm,
So that's exactly we need to keep a control over our thoughts or even a check on our thoughts that what is exactly we are feeding to our brain. Are these
right.
the positive and empowering thoughts or are these the one which are negative ones which are actually creating a limiting beliefs? So and especially and the last part actually the goldfish it's amazing. Like we need to be actually like goldfish, especially when dealing with rejections, because that's what is the most difficult part to accept.
Mm,
A lot of people come to me and ask that, like they have been rejected for over 50 times, that how to keep the motivation going.
yeah.
So that is one thing that I'm going to ask you also. That I know
Sure.
that it's as you already said, that be a goldfish. But of course, if the person who's doing everything right, maybe
Hmm.
they are getting their resume done professionally, they are doing, they're working on interviews,
Hmm.
but they are getting rejections over and over again. So in that case, there's like they are doing everything best. They're the
Hmm.
possible best possible way they can do it. But how to deal with this sort of like negative situation? I know that they're doing like putting a lot of effort, but the results are not coming in.
That's a great question. And I hear that a lot as well. It's like, well, I'm doing all these things. I would suggest that if you're not getting interviews or you're not getting a job offer, there's something that may be wrong, or maybe you're missing in the process. Now, it could
Yeah.
be it's the job market. But that's a slippery slope. If you go, well, it's a job market, then you don't have to take anything on yourself. And I think it's a constant journey of self evaluation and self improvement. So, a couple things when you say, oh, well, those negative thoughts, oh, I'm not very good or I'm terrible at this, ask yourself, okay, is that really true? Is that absolutely, because it's not, it isn't true. The other thing is in terms of your process, am I really doing everything, or have some things just become kind of like rote, that I just keep doing it over and over again? There's a really good book on rejection that I'm just in the process of reading. It's called Rejection Proof, and it says How to Beat Fear and Become Invincible by Jia Jiang, who has a great TED Talk, by the way. So I recommend taking a look at that. And he got rejected. He had started this business. Everything was going great, invested his own money, and to take it to market, he needed to get an investor or investors. And he presented his case and was super excited. The investors said, just no. Even though they
Yeah.
sounded positive, they said no. And it was a devastating rejection because this is his livelihood. What do I do now? And so he went on this journey to actually seek out rejection because it was so painful. And he didn't want to be paralyzed by that pain and that fear of rejection. Because were they really rejecting him, or is it just the bad timing? Or maybe it was the wrong person. And that's typically what it is. They're usually not rejecting you because you're some terrible person. It just wasn't the right fit for whatever reason. And it could have something to do with your background. It could have nothing to do with your background. And you may never know. So you have to brush it off and be a goldfish and push forward. And I think another way to help make that happen is to be very intentional, not just in trying to be positive minded, but treat your job search like a regular job. And I've told this to many people, and I don't know anyone who's ever actually done it, or at least really done it consistently. Because I'll ask them, say, well, how many hours did you actually spend yesterday on your job search? I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. No, you schedule your job search like it's your job, 8 to 5, whatever those hours are for you. Okay. And you get up, move your body, because that's going to help create some endorphins and kind of start something positive in the morning. Eat a healthy breakfast and get to work, and have a structured way you're going to go about it. Don't just apply for 8 hours in the day because you're going to burn out. You have to have some things, that different tasks that get you through the day, that are going to help you be productive, and some of it's going to be fun. I created a video on this, and I can tag it later in the comments.
Sure.
But basically, you need to have time to be working on your resume every day. It doesn't mean like, oh, I have to review it again. No, I mean, it's got to
Exactly.
have some of the basic things. And if you're in the job search, sorry, I feel like I have to say this because I've seen it so many times. Be sure your contact information is on your resume. That means your phone number. That means your email address. I can't believe there's times where there's no email address on a
Oops.
resume. I'm like, how do I contact you? You applied, or
Wow.
you're showing your right.
Yeah.
The
So
other
yeah,
thing is
that's
that happens
great. Yeah.
that
Go
happens a
ahead.
lot
Yeah.
is your voicemail. Make sure you have a pleasant voicemail. Make sure it's cleared out. It's not full. Many times I've tried to
Hmm.
call someone, it's like voicemail box is full, and take the call.
Yeah.
If you're out there, be ready for that to happen. I know we get a lot of spam calls these days, but take the call and go forward and do that. So getting back to the structure of your day, you're going to block off times for applying for targeted career search. I'm looking for what jobs are going to be a good fit. I'm actually going to create 10 companies or 50 companies, whatever it is, that are in my area, that are realistic, that I'd love to work for, and start your plan of going after them. If they don't have a job opening that's kind of in your field, then start to find out who's there and do some networking through LinkedIn. Um, Call people up. So having that structure every day of what you're doing, and some of it's going to be fun. You'll do some structured, targeted LinkedIn networking earlier in the day, and then later in the day, spend a couple hours just finding influencers in your field and reaching out to them, and keep it light. Don't, hey, I need a job, can you get me don't even say that. Just say, hey,
Yeah.
you're doing great in your field, I'd love to meet you, thanks for connecting. And then just
Yeah.
follow their content over a couple weeks, and just like their posts. And if they say something interesting, having it, oh, that was really cool how you said that, or this was really interesting, what do you think about this? And interact and engage. Networking it's a dance, and so many people use LinkedIn as a tool to, I'm gonna sell you something, or I'm gonna say, hey,
Yeah.
look at my resume, I'm looking for a job. You have to be a little bit more conversation and casual about it
Yeah.
when you're going through that process. And if you're doing that regularly over time, people get to know you. And if you then you can say, "Oh, hey, we've known each other for a year, by the way. Just I'm on the job market, just so you know.
Yeah.
If you know of anything or you know anybody I should talk to, that would be great."
Yeah, that's wonderful. Actually, you have shared a lot of insight. So if I sum up, that first thing is test when I asked that how they can keep the mindset positive. So and if they are getting the rejections again and again, so that means they need to just take a step back and evaluate that what's going on. They need to see that, because if they're not getting the result, and they think that they are doing the best, that means that they are not doing the best. There is something missing. So this thing that they need to step back, they need to see what they are missing. And then, as you said, that we need to of course have a proper structure, that you need to list down that how many companies we need to approach, what type of, and whenever they want to approach, they need to actually put the resume accordingly, design according to the research, according to the job
Right.
requirement, not just doing the same cut and paste thing, everything. It doesn't work that way. You need to tailor made each the resume and your cover letter as per the job requirement and as per the job posting. The one thing that here I would like to point out, that the thing is, as you mentioned earlier in this conversation, that it's it's good to be positive, but the thing is that being too much positive
Hmm.
without looking at the negative circumstances, like it becomes the toxic positivity. Like you don't
Hmm.
just say everything is going fine, everything's going to be fine. It's not
Hmm.
positivity. Positivity
No.
is like, that okay, you are good enough, but yes, circumstances are not right. So you're
Right.
aware of what is negative, but having a positive mindset that you will pass through all these negative circumstances.
Right.
That is side of, I would just say that, uh, don't develop a toxic positivity. Just have a positive mindset that will help you go through certain or help you achieve your goals in life, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because if you
Yeah.
do and you say those things, oh, that overly positive, oh, I've got a job, I'm going to get a job tomorrow, and this is all great. Uh, your head's going to turn around to you and say, that's just bull. That's a lie.
Yeah.
So it's got to be more. It's like, hey, I am valuable. This may be difficult, but I'm going to get through it. It could just be something that
Yeah.
simple. I'm going to get through today. I'm just going to get through
Okay.
today. And if
Yeah.
you take it as a job and you work your 8 hours, that's it. Then you're done. Enjoy your family, enjoy time off, read a book, watch a movie, whatever it is that you do. Take care of yourself, but don't feel like you have to be constantly, on the job search. Treat it like a
Yeah.
job, and you don't have to be completely yet overly positive, because if you hit that interview and you're like over the top, it unless people love that energy, depending on them or the industry, that could be too much and be like, wow, that nice person, they seem to have a good background, but I don't think I could deal with that every day. So it's
Yeah.
just being yourself and being your best self. If
Yeah.
you're in a bad mood or having a bad day, that's not what you want to put out there,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
But it's just, just try to not be overly emotional about it. And
Yeah.
I get it's hard to do, but if I think you stay structured, that sort of helps.
Yeah.
And I know we're
Yeah.
running kind of short on time. I do have a couple other tactical things I'd like to go over if there's time.
Yeah, sure, sure. Just there's just one question here, that
Yeah,
how we really realize that the
sure.
certain thing is a toxic positivity. So you want to answer this, or should I?
What was the question? How
That
do we
is,
realize
what's
that
it?
certain things is a toxic
Toxic
positivity?
positivity. Yeah.
Um, I'll just give you my take, Amir, on
Yeah.
that. I would say that if it just seems like you can't believe in it yourself, if you feel like you're just kind of feeding yourself a line to try and make yourself feel better, it's ultimately not going to help. If you've got to be realistic with, I think, your positivity. But
Yeah.
if you say I'm never going to get a job, that's not productive or helpful. To say, hey, I just want to get through the next hour. I'm going to get through the next hour. I'm going to be productive this next hour. You don't have to be happy, but if I'm going to be productive in the next hour, I'm going to be productive in the next 4 hours or 8 hours. and try and step up, because happiness comes from accomplishment and productivity. If you're being productive, you're going to feel better about what you've done, even if you haven't accomplished your goal.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just give a little bit of example, and then
Yeah.
I usually give to my clients also that, you know what, for example, if the house is burning, or like or the house catches a fire, and you're staying, or you're in the house, toxic positivity would be like, you're just sitting and you say that everything's
Right.
gonna be all right. So,
Right.
it's like you are ignoring the current circumstances. But the thing is, you need to realize that house is on fire and you need to do something.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
need to believe that, okay, you can get out of the house if you take right action. So that is I would just say that that's the right mindset. You just don't just close your eyes and see things that, oh, everything's gonna be okay. No, you need to realize that things are not right, but you need to make a way to move out from it. So, okay, I think you wanted to actually discuss the tactile
Yeah.
things, right? So, share your insights on that.
Sure. Yeah, that was a good illustration, by the way. Yeah, the burning
Thank
house
you.
analogy. Because yeah, if you're in there, you got, oh, this is everything's going to be fine. No, get out of the
Yeah,
house. You're going to
yeah,
die.
true.
So you got to be realistic, but just not, be balanced, not overly negative. So
Yeah,
some tactical things you can do. We talked about having a structure in your day and working an 8-hour day, and then being done and doing it again the next day. So one things I advise job seekers is, when you're putting your resume together, is to first create a master resume template. And what is that?
okay.
So this is a document that you're going to, it's like a giant CV. And what you're going to do is, you're going to think back for every job you ever had, and everything you did and everything you accomplished, and get it all written down on paper. And so you're not going to share this with anybody. This is for you. This is a tool to help you customize your resume. So then when you come across a job that looks interesting, ooh, here's a good one. What you want to do is put those things side by side, the job description and your resume template. And so you're going to start copying and pasting, or maybe removing things from your CV, because it's easier to edit or delete than it is to create. It's already there.
Yeah,
So if you see something, the job description, if it's any good at all, it's going to tell you what they need, what they want, what the job is. And some of the things that are really important are going to stand out. Must have dot dot dot. Must have a bachelor's in accounting, or must have, whatever it is. Whatever those skills are, make them more apparent in your resume. So if you did that thing in this job, then you put that to the first bullet point, and you put the professional expertise on top, and you hit those main things that you've done that show up in that job description, sometimes verbatim, because recruiters are just, they say, oh, it's got this, and this. I got to read this resume. And then they'll be more
yeah.
interested to read on. And if they like what they read, they may give you a call or shoot you an email and set up a phone screen. Okay. So that's one way to help you. And, because people complain about, oh, this customization is so much work. It takes so much time. Yeah, it does. But it doesn't have to take as long as you think if you do it in this way. How bad do you want the job? If imagine you're the hiring manager, and you see that someone put in some effort to that, you're going to be much more interested. I don't know,
Yeah.
the contrary to that, it's like, oh, I put in all this time and I do all this research, and I hit, it's just the process. And
Yeah.
just expect it to be kind of a drawn out process, and you're going to do a lot of research, and there's going to be some letdowns, but just be a goldfish and keep moving on.
Yeah, wonderful advice. And especially the master template is,
Hmm.
I think, much needed, because it helps, like, everything that you could think of about yourself, about your skills, you need to write down, and then you can just pick and choose that which job description fits the most, and then it will help you save time, save energies as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna ask you one question that is like,
Sure.
especially you said that you had the long recruiting uh, career, career, right? Like 10 years or
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
anything, like maybe you can share that what people should not do it, or maybe like you have come across the very funny experience and then you learn that they should not be doing this exactly, you must avoid.
Right. There's so much to say. I mean, I think
Yeah,
just in resumes, that's a talk. Just interviewing, that's a talk. Just networking, that's a talk. So from my experiences, um, number one, your resume has to be absolutely pristine. And so
yeah,
that means no punctuation errors, no spelling errors, because it reflects on you. And I've literally seen um, hiring managers take a resume and just be like, nope, misspelled word, trash. So it has to be perfect. Make sure you get at least one other person to take a look at it to make sure it's good, because how many times have you read over something you wrote 10 times and you miss that misspelling every time because you're just
yeah,
skimming, right? So that's one thing. It's got to be pristine. But in terms of the interview, there's so many things you can do right or wrong in an interview. One thing is, do not over talk. Answer the question fully, then stop. Because if the interviewer wants to know more, they're going to probe and they're going to ask, well, how did you do it? Da, da, da. So I've had people literally talk themselves out of a job because they can't shut up. They just, well, I did this, and then I did this,
yeah,
and then I did this, and then I did that, and then I went over here, did this, and then, well, my wife really didn't like that, and this and that led to a divorce, and then I got problems with alcohol. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I'm just like,
yeah,
hey, stop. Don't tell me this. I don't need to
yeah,
know this. Okay. Just tell
yeah,
me, answer the question. So don't over
yeah,
talk through that part of the interview. Be
yeah.
polite, be on task, do your research, and answer succinctly, completely, and then pause and wait.
Yeah, I think there's just one question here. What is your opinion on the role of mentorship in such time to identify delta or missing thing industry gaps? So,
Opinion role mentorships in such a time to buy.
oh, sorry.
Okay. So
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't really understand fully the question. Are they looking for, like, I want to be a mentor? I need a mentor. I think mentorship. I think it's great if you can find someone who can, you know, be that person to double check your resume, to maybe go through a mock interview with you and ask you some questions. I think those things are enormously helpful if you can find them. I think it's harder these days because so many people are so busy. And when COVID hit, one thing that I discovered is that anybody who had any background in resume writing or job search strategy, they all became coaches. And now there's
Yeah.
hundreds of more, job search coaches out there. I mean, if you can find a good one, and you're willing to pay for it, that's fine. But if you can also find a mentor, someone that cares about you and knows something more about you than business, or at least can, give you some direct and constructive feedback, I think it's really helpful, because you're not going to get that feedback in the interview. You could totally bomb it and don't know why, and then go and repeat that mistake over and over again. So Amir, I would suggest getting someone to go through your resume and pretend, give them a job description and say, ask me questions about this and judge my performance, and treat it like it's a real interview. Don't be too casual about it, and just ask for direct feedback.
Yeah, I think mentorship is really important, and because
It's huge.
the mentors can guide us in a way, because sometimes we may miss out things, so they can help us pinpoint that where we are going wrong. So
Sure.
I think this is a very actually vast topic, and we can go on talking and
Sure.
talking about it.
Yeah.
But the time of the show is
Yeah.
limited, and
Yeah.
it's almost we reached to the end. Before I close the show, what one advice would you give to our audience today?
Um, I'll just say, boil it down to these three things. One, mindset is everything. You know, take care of yourself, take care of your mind. Understand it's going to be a process, and maybe a difficult process, and just weather the storm. Um, you know, take rejection, be a goldfish, customize your resume. You have to. It's not a, should I? Yeah, you need to. Um, be prepared for the interview, and then finally network consistently, intelligently, appropriately. Yeah, and it's not just on LinkedIn. You can call someone for coffee. You can ask someone for, hey, how did you get to be where you're at, and try to meet with them. Join a professional organization. I got two or three jobs out of a professional organization because people knew me. I volunteered, I served on the board, they got to know me as a person, and so they were very pleased to recommend me. And if they don't get to know you, they're not going to recommend you. And people want to hire people that they're comfortable with, or there's a referral or someone that they know.
Yeah,
So those would be my
very good.
tips.
Yeah, brilliant tips actually. And thanks for sharing all these insights. I'm sure our audience have learned a lot today. Okay, so what is the right, like, how our audience can actually reach out to you? What is the best way? I know you're very active on LinkedIn, but is there any
Sure.
other, like maybe website or email or something?
Now, LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to
Mhm.
me if you have any questions. I get a lot of DMs, so you might have to be a little persistent to get my
Okay.
attention at times.
Yeah.
There's also, I've got a website. You can find this on Amazon if you want. It's in Kindle version. It's in paperback as well. And there's also I have a small like YouTube page called Career Jetpack that will help you get some more of this information as well. And I can put those in the comments later. Thank you.
Okay, sure. I'll also put your LinkedIn profile in the chat in the comments
Sure.
so people can actually find it. It's already actually you're already tagged in the post, so I'm sure they can easily find this. But I'm gonna put
Great.
it again. So thank you so much, Greg, for joining us today and
Yes.
sharing expert advice. And I feel that this is the much needed topic,
Mm,
and because lots of people are searching for the job and. They just need a direction, the right direction, because a lot of people
right.
are just going in the cycle, vicious cycle, just they're circling in the, like, but they don't know how to actually get out of that vicious cycle. So I'm sure they got some tips from today's session, and they're gonna apply it and they're gonna win in their job
Awesome.
search mission. So thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. It was an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. And to everyone out there who's looking for a job, who's struggling, hang in there. We're there behind you, and we'll support you in any way we can. And just stay the course and hang in there.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks to the audience who joined today and take
Yes.
the time to listen to us. So thank you so much. Bye
You
bye.
bet.